The News at 5 continues on RTV6.
All right, I guarantee you haven't been asked this before, but what would you say if a doctor told you someone else's feces could save your life?
That kind of treatment is happening right now at IU Health, and a couple from Attica knows it works. They sat down with Good Morning Indiana anchor Beth Vaughn.
I can assure you that
Rochelle and Nicholas Anno have been married for 25 years. They share almost everything, including an infection last year known as C. diff.
My symptoms got to the point where I was on the job and I would start vomiting, and I knew something was terribly wrong. I was losing weight.
Nicholas might have picked up the infection at work. He's a letter carrier, touching a lot of door handles that others have touched too. C. diff makes your stomach hurt all the time because your intestines are inflamed.
Mild antibiotics, and then they increased it to a more expensive vancomycin, and it was really expensive.
Too expensive. In fact, they said enough's enough when copays for medicine were $1,000 each round. A simple internet search turned up a new natural treatment that almost always works.
I infuse the stool into the right side of the colon, and usually then it stays in for a couple hours.
You heard her right. Gastroenterologist Dr. Monica Fisher puts feces from someone else into the body of an infected patient, usually by way of colonoscopy.
Through this, we can inject the liquidified stool material.
The donor stool replaces the bad bacteria, the infection, with good bacteria needed for digestion.
the stool samples Dr. Fisher uses come from a nonprofit at MIT. They are liquefied, frozen, and ready for transplant.
I just defrost it in room temperature or in a water bath and can administer it to the patient whenever it's needed.
Nicholas and Rochelle's fecal transplants both came from someone they'd never met.
First, you have to get over the idea of having an anonymous donor and the fecal transplant itself.
The results were worth it. They were back to feeling well again almost overnight. The Anno family isn't alone. Dr. Fisher says we're living in a C. diff epidemic. 500,000 people are affected by the disease every year. 300,000 are hospitalized. That creates an additional $8 billion in healthcare costs. It's serious, and she says using antibiotics too much is causing our bacteria levels to get out of whack.
We recognize that there are about 100 trillion bacteria in our large bowel, and they serve a very important purpose for our overall health.
After all, she says there are 10 times more bacteria in our bodies than human cells. From the newsroom, Beth Vaughn, RTV6.
Dr. Fisher says drugs are being created right now that will make fecal transplants obsolete in the next several years. That's a good thing because stool, while helpful as a last-ditch effort to treat C. diff, can carry viruses and infectious diseases. You might be wondering, how easy is it to donate stool? Well, the nonprofit that supplies IU Health says it's easier to get into Harvard than to become a stool donor. Donors are constantly screened and tested to make sure transplants can be successful.